Well, a 100 million or more signing is going to happen, or at least that's what Real Madrid wants. John Diomande, everyone is already saying it. Real Madrid has made an offer to Leipzig for 100 million, and they will probably ask for more. This could take a while because when Madrid is buying, clubs don't just sell for a high price, they sell for an outrageous one. That's just how it is. If they were to accept the 100 million right away, from the other club's point of view, it wouldn't be a good deal, especially with Real Madrid on the other side. Now, many people might think it's outrageous to sign this player for 100 million. Well, time will tell us that if Madrid ends up reaching the three-digit figure. Because, of course, he's 19 years old. It's a lot for someone who went from Leganés to Leipzig. And we've seen highlights. He didn't have a particularly good World Cup. Even if you watch him for 30 seconds, just 10 seconds, you can already see he's really good. But there are some stats. He has some very interesting numbers from last year. And if you watch highlights, even though highlights can always be misleading, it's a trap because, of course, you fall in love with a player after just a minute of video. If you think he always plays like that and look closer, right? By the way, he's going to be loaned out. And now let's talk about the starting 11 because it's incredible what Real Madrid's lineup could look like next year. With, in addition, two players for each position, leaving out some very good and very important people. But that's what it's all about, winning titles again and having a team that has real depth, that is complete, that has been reinforced. Reforzado positions that haven't been reinforced for 2 or 3 years. And I think Madrid can achieve it in an absolutely historic summer. If this signing comes, if Rodri comes, we'll talk about all of them. Fabrizio Romano is saying here that the offer is indeed 90 million plus 10 in add-ons, and that Leipzig has rejected it and is asking for more than that. Let's see how far we go. Because, of course, the thing about Julian Alvarez, none of us believed it. It was 150 million. We understood that if then Real Madrid went after Olise, it was for that amount. And that money is there. It works. I don't know if it fits or if they'll have to ask for a loan. But that money is there. Madrid wants to spend that money on a big star. That the thing with the French footballer from Bayern is impossible, and well, this one has been chosen. But the debate opens up about whether someone should be sold. They're talking about a very painful sale. They're saying that, and Sergio Valentin said it, who always has very good information. There are footballers. I mean, these three footballers, Bellingham, Mbappe, and Valverde. I was surprised about Valverde. That's what he says, that they are not going to be. And well, if we're talking about a painful sale, I don't know if it will be something like what happened with Casemiro in 2022. Though painful, it made perfect sense when someone was offering 80 million for a player who had already done it all. Who was already not that old, but well, it could be that he could leave Real Madrid with more emotional than rational. And this year, which player could we be talking about? In that sense, well, Chouameni could be the one. If Rodri comes, Chouameni would be in the background or have a different role than he has had. But the fact is that someone has to leave. Of course, among those three we've talked about, the ones Sergio Valentin mentioned, Vinicius isn't included. And Vinicius also has a very particular situation, which is that his contract ends next year. Well, we all know that, right? He still hasn't renewed, and they could get good money for Vinicius, but less than before since his performance has dropped for 2 seasons. Who isn't doing that badly, in my opinion, but isn't as good as he was at his best. And that's where a lot of money could come in. And above all, because this guy Diomande is coming in as a winger. Of course, here's the thing. We've seen him in the World Cup playing on the right. He can play. He's just as good on the left as he is on the right as an inverted winger or on his natural side. But anyway, look, I insist. I don't want to fall into that nonsense. The highlights thing, here's an example. He starts on the right, completely confuses a Bundesliga defender. It's amazing. I can't show it due to copyright, but he moves all the way along the edge of the box. A lot of options. Nobody makes a run for him. The guy gets there and says, well, fine, I'll just shoot with my right foot from here. I mean, there are a series of actions from this guy that are just absolutely incredible. Well, rather than showing images, I invite you to watch the highlights on Twitter. Just look up Diomande and you'll find it. Look, this video. For example, from who was it? From Alvaro Barrito, which is really good. It's just 8 minutes of this player. It's absolutely incredible. Borja Jimenez, coach of Leganés, at the time when this guy arrived, said that, well, when he arrived, very young, 17 or 18 years old, he had him train. He sees him and says, no, look, this is going to be they told him literally, he says in an interview, he's going to be the new Messi. No way, come on. Well, the thing is that in a training session, he puts him with the first team of Leganés, even though he came for the reserves. Well, apparently he gets past 3, 4, 5 players, scores a goal into the top corner. Borja Jimenez says the first touch was already like, wow, we're talking about something else here. When he got past the first one, they said, wow, that's why many times you see a footballer for just 10 seconds and that's it. And those who know about football can already tell the stars apart from the average players or those who aren't good enough, right? And let's just say the first impression they made was incredible. Well, the thing is that during that training session, Borja Jimenez, I don't know if he was coaching. No, yes, he was coaching the first team. He said, take him out because the first team players are going to kick the hell out of him because he's making a fool out of them. They took him out after about 15 minutes. He said, tomorrow he'll train with the first team so he can join us. And he's already on another level, even in training. Because this was a match they were playing between the reserve team and the first team. And he already took him up even more. I believe he took him to the Bernabeu. And it's true he played well. That day, Borja Jimenez said he won a penalty that wasn't awarded at the Bernabeu. He'll have to review it. I won't check how it was now. They complained about the referee then, but after that, he scored goals with Leganés and so on. Look, of course, then they sell him for 20 million, 2020, something million to Leipzig, and they knew he was going to be a star. Maybe they could have sold him for a little more. But anyway, the thing is, well, the player was still only 18 years old. Anyway, look at this. These stats that Mr. Amancio shows us here, non-penalty goals. In the league, in 25-26, Yan Diomande, 12 out of 53 shots, 1 goal every 4.4 shots. Olise, 15 out of 102 shots, 1 goal every 6.8 shots. Vinicius, 12 out of every 10. Rema, out of every 100 shots, 1 goal every 8.3 shots. And Jamal, 13 out of 117, 1 goal every 9.0 shots. So out of all these, Olise, Vinicius, Lamine, Jamal, he's the one with the best average. Well, and again, these are just facts, right? Let's see. Madrid, if Madrid goes for this guy, we've been fooled. We've been tricked many times, right? With players who only had one good season. What was his name? That Serbian guy, damn. Jovic was spectacular, especially in the Bundesliga, scoring many goals. He wasn't originally a striker, but became a number 9. Hey, we fall into the trap. We signed Jovic. Sorry, I still haven't gotten rid of this cough from the World Cup, and they get us with Jovic. I think this guy is different because he isn't a pure finisher. He creates a lot too, especially from the wing. And also, he can start from the left or the right. And especially starting from the right. And he's just as good on one side as he is on the other. Now then, of course, old videos have already started to come out. You know, that famous Leganes match at the Bernabeu, I repeat, they were complaining about the referee. Well, it was this guy who just arrived and he said this, and I know it's not going to go over well. I didn't like it either, but now I'll share my thoughts on this topic. He says, okay. He says, what did you think of the referee's performance? Wait, I'm going to turn it down a bit. He says, I think it was bad. He says, Mbappe's free kick goal wasn't a foul. And he says, so far, so good. And he says, and the penalty wasn't a penalty either. But it's Madrid. It's always like that. He said the Barcelona fans and people from El Chiringuito are freaking out. I remember we discussed this on the show, and I said it's unbelievable. What happens is that this guy just arrived, that the club that pays him, that paid the second in command of the referees for 20 years and all that, then in these kinds of comments, sorry, it wasn't being shared. Sorry, it was this moment. Sorry, I wasn't sharing my screen. They asked him what he thought. Ana said it was very bad, but it wasn't a foul or a penalty. And with Madrid, it's always like that. All right. Well, like I said, the kid just got here, but these kinds of comments from football players in the Spanish league, when they say, no, Madrid is always like this, it's incredible. But anyway, same as always, I don't want to go back to that. What I want to get at with these statements, and this guy is the thing about the player who speaks badly about Real Madrid, that we don't forgive him. Look, it's total nonsense. We've already forgiven Figo and Courtois, even though we didn't need to, and they've said worse things about Real Madrid. It's the same with Rodri, which we'll discuss now. He said something about Vinicius, but didn't insult him. During the celebration, he mentioned Vinicius, and we criticized him. Seriously, let's stop messing around. What matters is winning. We don't owe loyalty to any player. Besides, well, when you're outside, it seems like one thing, but when he arrives at Madrid, he'll realize the greatness of the club, etc. And we need this type of player, one who can make a difference up front, and another one, like we talked about yesterday regarding Rodri in the midfield, to bring order there. Besides, he's a leader. He's really a leader. And he already has enough experience and titles, by the way. Rodri has entered a historic ranking alongside Franz Beckenbauer, Leo Messi. I can't remember who else, but with many others. Not many, just 7 or 8 players. World Cup and continental competition. World Cup, Ballon d'Or competition, and he was also the other best footballer with a Ballon d'Or in a World Cup as well. I mean, he's a player we absolutely need to set up the starting 11, and we're already getting a bit excited, but we can allow ourselves to be. I put one together here on this website where you can create starting 11s, right? With Courtois in goal, I would put Dan Danford on the right before Trent Alexander-Arnold, honestly. Eden Danford gives me a lot more in defense than Trent, and maybe not as much in attack, and he isn't as good technically, but for me, it's worth it. This is my starting 11, and I'm leaving out a lot of players that you can mention in the comments, whatever you think. Maybe you don't agree with me, of course, but, well, that's how I see it. Rudiger and Hausen as center-backs, Cucurella on the left, no debate. Javier or Militao? Well, Militao definitely won't be fit for the start of the championship, right? With, I mean, Hausen, who for me should start ahead of Konate. Careful, if Konate improves his performance compared to last year in the World Cup, because his first half in the third place game against England was crazy. Well, maybe he can win the spot from Hausen, but I want to keep trusting Hausen. In midfield, Rodrigo as the holding midfielder, you'll tell me. Won't Rodrigo be out for at least the first month because he just had surgery? I need to correct something from yesterday. Rodrigo says he hasn't had surgery. I said that and made a mistake about the thigh. Well, about the thigh, glute thigh. It's the consequence of a herniated disc that he has and has had, and for which he had an outpatient procedure, not a surgery where he had to stay in the hospital. You know, those of you who have had one thing or the other, this one is minimal, but it's true that he'll be out for a month and a half, almost 2 months is a problem. Well, it's possible they won't sign him. A player out for 2 months isn't helpful, and we don't have great memories of that. Maybe a few good ones, but that's it. When Ronaldo Nazario was the best player of the 2002 World Cup, it was said if JCE signs him, he won't be available until he started, which wasn't until October. I didn't even know when this guy began, and he wasn't there. The first and second years, Ronaldo's years, were absolutely wonderful. No, well, with Rodri, hey, we're signing the best footballer from the last World Cup. He'll be out for a month or two. It's no big deal, but still, undoubtedly, as the pivot of this Real Madrid. If they end up signing him and the information remains the same, Madrid has an agreement with the player. That's the latest update on everything. What still needs to be negotiated with him, with Manchester City, is the price starting at 60 million. But I think they're going to get greedy and ask for 80. Let's see how it all ends up. Valverde, Bellingham, Diomandé on the right, Vinicius on the left. On paper as the number 9, of course, there are a lot of things to talk about here. We're sure that after the World Cup Bellingham had, we want him to. There in the midfield, joining a 3-man midfield alongside Rodri and Valverde. Or should we play him further forward? With the English national team, he's shown that the closer he is to goal, the better he performs and scores. Well, it's a debate, definitely. It's a debate that maybe in Bellingham's position in the midfield, would you put Bernardo Silva there? Or Google, of course, we're leaving them out. Or to whistle, I love to whistle. It's more about whistling. First team. Let him learn from the greats. He won't be a starter, but let him be there. Mourinho will decide. He put out this starting 11 because in terms of names, it's the most spectacular, right? And still, I insist, Bernardo Silva is out. Of course, Hendrick too. Players that people want to see, but not everyone can fit in. And what about the attack? Well, depending on whether they sell Vinicius or not, I don't want them to sell him. Since he's in that position on the left, he's still the world's best. I put him on the right for everything we've talked about because he can really shine there. And from there, plus with a lot of options. If Vinicius is out, do you put that responsibility on the left or let Mbappe play there? I would keep Gonzalo on the squad because together with Hendrik, he's a great backup for the forwards. And well, we could see this madness this year at Real Madrid. Tell me in the comments if you like it, what would you change and what would you do? And that's it. Correct what I said about Rodri yesterday, about the surgery issue, and to be honest and fair to the facts. And that problem lasted a month, a little over a month, almost 2 months, of course. It's not the same to have Rodri as to have Tchouaméni, not only because they don't play the same way. And going back to what I said at the beginning, maybe Tchouaméni is one of the ones who leaves. It's one of those painful sales. It would make more sense that if you have Rodri as a starter, his substitute would be a player almost like a clone of him or very similar to him. Tchouaméni isn't exactly a great holding midfielder, a great central midfielder, but damn, we saw it in Spain, France, man. It's also a matter of the people around him, right? But the thing is, they play a different game. They play a different game. Very young, and he's even younger, but we want to keep playing the same way. Maybe Mourinho really likes his style. And hey, a lot of coaches really like his style. But of course, when you have the chance to get Rodri, well, that's something else. And keep in mind, he has fewer years left, but also with the possibility that in these 3 years, Rodri can give you could have several players in your sights, either coming up from the youth academy or learning from him, like Peter himself, which isn't exactly the same, but he's going to learn a lot from him and from everyone there, but especially from him. So you can start training a defensive midfielder for the coming years. Let me know in the comments what you think. Give it a like. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, comment, compartilla, and share. It really helps. Thank you very much for all the views these past few days. See you in the next one. Have a great Saturday. Bye.